Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday, late afternoon, October the 25th, 2020. I would like to welcome everyone to the show today. This will be my weekly methane and sea ice update that I will put on YouTube. We'll also look at some earthquakes and a couple of other things. So I hope everyone is doing as well as possible and hanging in there. It's getting strange and getting harder to be here day by day. But God said that we'll be rewarded if we persevere to the end. And I am a believer in Jesus Christ. He is my Lord and Savior. And I'm a watch person on the wall, showing people where we are in relation to methane and sea ice and other climate related items. And we're so close to the end, it's unbelievable. And all of this has been prophesied in the Holy Bible, and we can see these things as well. So this is why I do the work that I do. So we're going to start out with our weekly methane update. I have the NOAA data here from yesterday, the 24th, for the 477/469 millibar reading. This is the METOP-1 satellite in the morning. The mean or average was 1912 parts per billion, and our high reading was 2392. In the afternoon, the mean was 1911, the high reading was 2415. On the METOP-2 satellite in the morning, the mean was 1895, the high reading was 2550. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1893, and the high reading was 2393. So here's the spreadsheet and the chart that we're looking at. So here's the data for the 24th, and the means are up here, added up and divided by 4. We come up with an average of 1902.75 parts per billion, which shows an increase over last Saturday of 2 parts per billion. But what I want to show you is yesterday we had another high reading of 1904.25 parts per billion, which matched the high reading on September the 25th. So we did have another peak yesterday, and it was exactly 1904.25, almost a month after the one in September. So, and then it went back down to 1902.75, and so that was on the 23rd. So overall this year, so we're still above this 1900 parts per billion line up here. Now traditionally methane starts going down about mid-October. It usually peaks out. Last year it peaked out here on October the 12th. I've been tracking this methane since March the 1st of 2019. So last year the peak was at 1885.75. Now last year I was not tracking it daily. I was only tracking it on Saturdays. And so this year I started tracking it daily back in February because we started seeing it go up so fast. And I wanted to just see on a day-by-day basis what it was like. So there we are. So we had 2 peaks of 1904.25 so far this year. But for the weekly, it was 1902.75. And so the change since March the 1st or February 29th of this year has been an increase of 26.25 parts per billion. The change since March the 1st of last year has been an increase of 45.5 parts per billion. So we're really in no man's land with the methane. So let me show you what it did on a daily basis this last week. So here it was from last Saturday the 17th at 1900.75. Then it went up to 1901 on Sunday. Then on Monday it went up another 1.25. On Tuesday it went down slightly to 1902. On Wednesday it went down slightly again to 1901.25. Then Thursday it took a jump to 1903.5, so that was a sharp increase of 2.25. And then on Thursday it went up again to 1904.25, so a slight increase of 0.75. And I didn't know if it was going to stay there, but then for the 24th, which was yesterday, it went down 1.5 parts per billion, which brought us back down. So instead of being up 3.5 parts per billion this week, we were only up 2 parts per billion. And so it was February the 8th that it started running up, and so since then we've seen an increase this year of 39.5 parts per billion. So we're really, this is runaway methane, and it has dire consequences on what's happening with the planet, and causes the globe to heat up faster and holds more water in the atmosphere and different things. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good. So we'll see if it's going to be going on its downward trend now, or if it's still going to be just stair-stepping. Now last year, after it reached that peak on October the 12th, it went steadily down with a little stair step here and there until the end of December, and then it started meandering, and then in early February it started going back up. So we'll keep an eye on that, and I'll keep everyone updated every week on what's going on with methane. Now we'll look at the CAMS data. This is the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services out of the EU. And I've got Saturday pulled up for the 24th, so it's the same day as the NOAA data. I have the Arctic view and surface level ready. So there's our color ledger at the bottom. So here's where it left off on Friday, and we're seeing overall green covering almost the whole northern hemisphere here, at least on the land masses, which is our background color. We're not seeing hardly any blue, so the background color is now 1920 parts per billion. That's this dark green, and then it goes, as you go to the right and go through the different colors, it's going higher and higher, and until, like, this bright red is 2100, and then this reddish brown is 2160 to 10,000 parts per billion. So let's just run this. So the data is for Saturday, and the forecast is for Sunday through Wednesday. So here we're looking down on the Arctic. Here's Greenland, here's Canada, here's Alaska, here's US, here's Finland, Norway, Sweden, Finland. Here's Russia. This is all Russia over here. China is down here. This is Iceland. Here's Svalbard, Franz Josef Land, Novaya Zemlya, and here's Severnaya Zemlya. Now we're seeing it bubbling back up here by Severnaya Zemlya. It had gone away for a few days this last week, but now it's active again, and it's bubbling up sporadically here in the North Kara Sea. We're also seeing this coast of North Alaska come back into play here. And you're seeing the waves of the methane move out across the Arctic. And the sea ice is trying to refreeze, but it's not doing a very good job. It's struggling. It's really struggling. And we're seeing the background color come back to higher readings here in Russia, going into the forecast period. And see, it's going up into the yellows and the oranges. So I think we're not done with seeing high levels of methane for this year, and I think we're going to see some more increases. We may have peaked out, but I don't know. Everything is happening so weird this year that we're really in no man's land. We're in uncharted waters with the climate and the sea ice, and we just don't know how it's all going to interact together. Here's the North Pole view. So here's India. Now you can see India just filling up with that dark methane, and then it's spilling over the border into the Bengal Bay and into the Arabian Sea. So India is definitely higher. China is higher this week. We can see that filling up and spilling out over the border, the coastline, and into the Pacific Ocean as well. Here's the Persian Gulf, that's filling up more. Here's Europe. You can see we've got some higher readings here in the Mediterranean area. Here's Canada. So south of the Hudson Bay, we're still seeing some high readings. Now in the US, we've got, see this green wave moving down in the forecast period. It comes down and covers the whole US and moves out into Mexico. Normally we don't see that green covering all of the US all at once. So that's a higher reading, the wave moving down there. And see the wave moving out into the Atlantic Ocean. This eastern seaboard is high. And again, it's because of the populations and pollution and different things. Now we'll go to the global view. So this is the Antarctic down here. We're seeing it pop up around the coastlines still, right down here. I haven't been looking at the Antarctic that much. I've been really focused on the Arctic and that thicker sea ice that's left, and that's about to get turned down into the Beaufort Sea, and I'm real concerned about that. So I'm just been watching that like a hawk. So we're seeing more of this navy blue, this darker blue come back into play as the methane levels go down a little bit, and this blue is at 1800 parts per billion. We're still seeing this white spot pop up in China right there. That's near Beijing, and the white area means that the readings are higher than what they can read on the chart. So they're above 10,000 parts per billion. And Beijing is the most polluted most polluted city on the planet. Their air quality is awful. But of course, the air quality has not been too great out here in the western United States with all the wildfires, but you know, everybody's got something. And then I'll refresh so that we can get the right color chart. Now this is the 500 HPA reading. This correlates to the NOAA data that we saw. We're seeing a lot of reds over the Arctic, and then the higher readings with the darker brown look over Alaska and Beaufort Sea. And we've got higher readings here from India over to Africa, and then across China, and then across Russia too. We're starting to get some lower readings pop in. You see the blue and that darker blue. That's starting to pop in as the methane levels are starting to retreat in certain places. Now this is total column that we'll look at next. This is where all the methane levels are added up through the layers, and we come up with the total column reading. Here's the color ledger. As we can see, India's the highest, and then China and Asia, and then still coming out across this Bengal Bay, the Arabian Sea, and over to Africa. And look at the green coming all the way down to the Antarctic. So that's the western peninsula of the Antarctic. So we've got higher readings spreading out around the planet. Let's go back to our slideshow now. This is ozone over the Antarctic today. The hole is still quite large. I don't think it's getting any smaller. It's a different shape. It's, instead of a straight circle, it's more like an egg shape. And this is the western peninsula. This is South America here. And the lowest reading is right here in the center in the black area. This is between 100 and 125 Dobson units, which is quite low. And we can see this black line all around this egg shape, and everything in that black line is in the danger zone. So that's not good. So that will be letting in more radiation from the sun, and will be melting the glaciers and the sea ice even faster. And as we get more into spring and summer in the Antarctic, I'll be showing that more. Here's the Arctic view for ozone. We can see it's still quite thin over the North Atlantic where it's entering the Arctic. It's in the green there. We're getting some yellows from about the North Pole on up to the Bering Strait. Yellows and reds are good, but the when it starts looking kind of greenish and down to the blues, that's thin. And from all the wildfire smoke, it's really thinned out the ozone in a lot of places. We can see that. And it's not just the wildfires from North America, but Russia has been having wildfires burning all summer long. And the fires don't actually go out. There have been articles written about how when the winter comes, the snow just piles up on top of the fires, and they just kind of smolder during the winter, and then after the snow melts, the fires come back to life. So they're not actually put out by the snow. I'm kind of worried that's what's going to happen over here in California and the West Coast, because those fires have been burning, and now it's getting colder and some snow in the mountains, and so it'll look like the fires are going away, but I think they could just sit there and smolder. And some people call them zombie fires because they come back to life. But we can see a lot of thinning all the way across the planet. See the green and the blue-green. It's quite thin. We're in big trouble. Here's sulfur dioxide for today. We're seeing high readings down here off the coast of South America. Again, we've been seeing them here for a few days now, and this volcano down here in southern Peru, Sabancaya, is going off. So that's contributing to a lot of it, but they've had a lot of earthquakes down there too, and that plate line runs right through there. Here's Popocatépetl volcano in Mexico. Hawaii has been giving off a lot of extra sulfur dioxide recently. We've also had some higher readings here from Kamchatka, Russia, from the volcanoes. Shiveluch is going off up there, and probably some others. Then we're seeing the reds and the golden colors over China and India and these Middle Eastern countries, and most of this is from pollution. Here it is at 500 HPA. Now, when it's from volcanoes or earthquakes, it shoots up into the atmosphere. This is about halfway up in the atmosphere, about 18,000 feet, and registers. And so we can see Hawaii has a whole bunch coming up. Here's Popo from Mexico, and here's in South America. Here's the Pacific view. So if you'll think of the earthquake map and that ring of fire, the tectonic plate lines that go all around these coastlines and then come around, we can see that's where we have a lot of the sulfur dioxide coming up too. Here it is at 500 HPA, and it's pretty heavy, but it does get caught up in the jet stream and gets carried around the planet. We're seeing some higher readings here in northern Canada that's been carried over from Kamchatka. It's carried over across in the Arctic, and it's also streaming around in the Pacific from Hawaii and coming across as well. And those are all those pictures. Let's look at next we'll look at sea ice. I'm a little disappointed with Climate Reanalyzer. their website is not up to date. This is the last data they released on sea ice and snow cover, and it was for Thursday. Normally they're on it like every day when I go. It's all been updated, so I don't know if they've got issues or, you know, problems with the data coming in, if satellites have been down from brownouts or what. But this is sea ice and snow cover for Thursday the 22nd. We can see this little thin skim of ice has reached the Alaska coast and Canada coastline now, so the Beaufort Sea is trying to fill back in with sea ice. It's quite thin. It's just inching out here around the edges, but it's not doing very much on this eastern side. And the rest of the Arctic is just clear. I mean, you can sail right through there. So let's go back and through this and see what it did since last Sunday, since my report. So here we were last Sunday. This Beaufort Sea was still open here along the Alaska coastline. And so let's go. So here was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we can see the snow accumulating on the land to the white areas. Now this is from the Navy website. This is sea ice thickness for the Arctic. This is for today. Now the scale is on the right here. The thickest ice we have right now showing is, you can't really see it, there's a little reddish area right down here on the Canadian coastline. But the aqua color is about 2 to 2.5 meters thick. This is what's left of the thickest sea ice. I've named these quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're seeing a little ribbon of aqua trying to come back along northern Greenland, but it's pulled away. We've got some white areas, so we've got an area where the ice is pulled away from the coastline. Here's Ellesmere Island. It's trying to come back around that coastline, and it's just struggling. And we've got some cracks in this sea ice here that have been forming, and this is sliding. It's slipping. Even though it's thickening up a little bit, it's still slipping down into the Beaufort Gyre. This is the gyre, and this, the way the waves move, they come across from Siberia, they come across, and then they come down in here, and then they circle around. And I'm afraid that we're gonna see this sea ice chewed up in this gyre. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping that it gets frozen back soon enough that it kind of anchors in. Here's the 30-day animation, but this is, it only forecasts out to the 26th. The Navy website, once we reach the minimum it started trying to come back. They stopped updating this every day, and so this is what we have. What can I say? This is what we have. So you can see the movement and you can see it moving. The general movement is down here, see, to the left. Alright, here's the last day in the animation, which is tomorrow. There's a 26th up there. And there had been a piece that had broken off, and it's disintegrating down here. And that's where we're at. Still quite thin in these areas. The dark purple is about 1 meter thick. The lighter purple is about 1/2 meter thick, and then it goes down to just the little fringe skim of ice. But here it's come back to the Alaska-Canada border here. It's trying to refreeze in these tributaries on the Canadian archipelago. Here in the Baffin Bay, it's having trouble refreezing, and here is just a little fringe around this Siberia coastline. So there's that. And I also have pictures of the Beaufort Sea. I've discovered this on the Navy website. So here we are for today. This is a close-up of this thickest sea ice. So here's that thickest sea ice that we just saw. This is Alaska down here, and then Canada over here. Here's the Bering Strait on the left. Here's where the sea ice is refreezing, quite thin, and it's the same scale. But here's where it is, and there's a big hole opening up right here, and see these darker areas. This is where it's not as thick. We see the aqua, which is 2 to 2.5 meters thick, and a little bit is kind of going into the green zone right here. And as we go into green, it gets thicker, like 3 meters, and then yellow it's about 3.75, and then this yellow-orange is 4 meters thick. So just this little tiny bit is like in this bright red, which is about 4.25 meters thick. So I thought I'd show you this slideshow. Let's go back to last week. Here it was on the 18th, because they didn't update their 30-day animation, so I thought I'd just do my own. So here it was last week on the 18th. Now you can see this piece that had broken off. It had kind of drifted down here, and now it's drifting back up. But you're going to see this disintegrating, and you're going to see this whole thing kind of sliding down this week. So here's last week, last Sunday, the 18th. Here's the 19th, 20th. That was a lot of movement there. 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So you can see it's kind of bending here at the end, and that these little pieces are disintegrating, and I think that crack is opening up more. So I'm very afraid that we're going to lose this sea ice. And you know, whatever it is, it's not going to be very thick come next spring when it starts melting, because it's not going to have time to refreeze that great across the Arctic. So now let's look at NASA Worldview with the ice. Before we go there, we'll go to, this is National Snow and Ice Data Center Sea Ice Index. This is the Arctic for today. This is concentration, and the darker blue it is, the less concentrated it is. So we're seeing a lot of blue here north of Greenland from the Fram Strait up to the North Pole, and then we can see where it's refrozen, it's still quite blue. But we're looking for white because that means it's more concentrated. Now this chart, this is the Arctic sea ice extent, and this is, the blue line is this year. We can see that it's its lowest level in recorded history from about the 1st of October. Now the dotted line was 2012, and that was the lowest recording for extent, and then this was the median range. And so this year we were below 2012 for a while in July, and then we went a little bit above it in August and then September, where we reached the minimum. Then it started coming back up on the refreeze parallel, and see, typically in the past these lines have kind of run parallel so that it would refreeze at about the same rate. But this year it's just it's on a walkabout. It's got a mind of its own. It's at its lowest record extent. Climate scientists don't know what to think about it, and so what this means is it's not refreezing the way it's supposed to, and there are several reasons for this. The air over the Arctic is still much warmer than normal. We'll look at that on Climate Reanalyzer. The sea surface temperature is higher than normal. We also have warm air coming up, or warm water coming up under the ice, melting it from below, and it's just it's a whole mix. And so the whole Arctic ecosystem is changing. It's just a different place. Now we'll look at NASA Worldview. I'll turn on the blue marble layer. Here we are for today. I'll refresh so that we can get all the data in. Now where it's red means it's starting, or not as concentrated. The white means it's concentrated. Pinkish means it's just starting to go down. Red is, it goes down through the colors of the rainbow down to purple. Here's where it's refreezing a little bit around the edges of this sea ice. But here it is from the Fram Strait up to the North Pole. It looks to me like it's getting worse. And then here west of the North Pole. Now the thickest sea ice is right down through here, right in here. And right here is where the cracks are. And so I think it's breaking up. So if we go back to the 18th, which was last Sunday, we can see what it's done this week. So here's where the red was last week. So here was the 18th. Here's the 19th, 20th. See, it's looking better. It's more white coming across. Here's the 21st, 22nd. But by the 22nd, it's not looking that good. Big change on the 23rd. See here in the Beaufort Sea, and also coming up in the Fram Strait and up to the North Pole. Here's the 24th, yesterday, and then today. So from yesterday to today, it actually looks a tiny bit better. Not as red, but I'm very worried about it. Now here we can see the ice is coming back around Severna Zemlya. Now right here is where we've been seeing the high releases of methane on CAMS ever since January, right here. Here we're seeing it starting to come back along the coastline. This is the Kara Sea, so here along Russia, this is the Gulf of Ob. Wherever you see the colored dots, that's where it's starting to refreeze. Just a tiny bit around the coastline. But the climate scientists are worried because normally it would be a lot further out by now. And the fact that this was ice-free for months on end, so this water had time to heat up with the sun up 24/7 for so many months. And so it's going to take time for that water to cool down. And in the meantime, we've got methane coming up. That doesn't help matters any. Now I want to show, where am I? I want to show the nighttime layer. We can just take a peek at this. One of my subscribers on YouTube, Larry, shared the link, and I had briefly looked at the nighttime layer. What was it, last year? But I didn't really get into it. But he shared it last week and said, you know, we can look at the sea ice with this layer. And what I found is we can see the sea ice differently. Now it's dark up here, so we can't see it from the regular satellite view because it's dark, but this is one way we can kind of look through and see the sea ice. Now this is Ellesmere Island here. Here's northern Greenland. So here's the sea ice. We can see it. It's coming up almost all the way to the coast. Here's a little opening here, but you can see the cracks there. So this is an interesting layer. So this was last Sunday. Now here's some cracks. This is part of that thicker sea ice. See, the further away you get from the middle, the darker it gets on this nighttime image. That's the only problem. But see these cracks? So this is part of that thicker sea ice, and see, there's the hole. There's a hole. and you can see the cracks coming up. See, those are cracks in the ice. That's open water. Here's the North Pole. But if we look, I mean, it's quite amazing how you can see the ice like this. So if we go forward this week, the 19th was a pretty good viewing day. See, here it is along the Greenland coast. Then here's Ellesmere. And then it gets dark over here. It's kind of weird the way it goes. Here are cracks there. There's the 20th. 20th was a pretty good viewing day. Look at this. See all that? So that's a lot of open water yet. That's not refreezing in between the ice, and it needs to be. That's why the concentration is not looking as good, because we've got open water instead of those leads refreezing. Here's open water here. You can see that. Big holes. So we can see areas here. See. Here's the North Pole. We can see the cracks going all the way across. Let's see. Here's the other edge, the top edge of the sea ice. If we come across, here's Ellesmere, and then it gets kind of dark, but we can still see the cracks. Here's that hole opening up. Here's the 21st. Now here, see, the ice is pulling away from the coastline. See that big area? It was closer to the coastline the day before. See? Now look. See? So it's pulling away. So that's not good. You can see here big cracks. There's the North Pole. Here's Ellesmere. See, it's away from the coastline there. Let's see what it looked like yesterday here. Well, it's moving. You can see the movement. So it's moving quickly. Here's some cracks. Here's the hole. That's where it's breaking up. So I don't know. Let's go to the 22nd. As we go through the week, it gets a little harder to see because of the way the Earth is tilting. Okay, here's northern Greenland. Look at this. So it's a little harder to see here. Here's the 23rd. Again, look at northern Greenland. See, it's pulled away. Open water there. That's not good. It's not anchoring in. See, as it goes forward, it gets darker as it goes out. It's because the way the Earth is tilting. The North Pole is tilting away from the sun. Now look at this big area on the 24th. This is worse. See? See, that's just not refreezing. It's hard to make out anything up here. There's some cracks. You can see that. And here's today. So here's what it looks like today at northern Greenland. See, open water. It's just not. See that? And see, it's gotten darker over here. So I think our good viewing for nighttime is about up because the way the tilting is happening. So there's that. So thank you, Larry, for reminding us of this layer and showing it and suggesting that I look at it. It's interesting, but I don't think it's going to last through the winter for us. But the sea ice concentration is a way that we can follow it. Because it's dark up there. I'll show you. I'll turn off the blue marble. This is the area that's dark now, where the sun has gone down. And this other area, it's only coming up a little bit over the horizon for like an hour a day, and then it's going down. So this will get bigger and bigger, and we can see that about half of Greenland is in the dark. Ellesmere is in the dark. And where this thickest sea ice is, it's all in the dark now. And here's Svalbard, Franz Josef Land, Severnaya Zemlya, half of Novaya Zemlya, and then part of Russia is now coming into the dark. And when we zoom in, it's hard to even see the little skim of sea ice that's coming back. It's just hard to make it out. It's like right here. That's what's coming back, just that little skim, and that's about it. These are clouds that we're looking at here. Here's the Yamal Peninsula. Let's see. Here's Novaya Zemlya. And that's it. So we'll leave that. Now let's take a peek at Climate Reanalyzer, even though, let's refresh just to make sure they have not. See, Friday the 23rd, that was the last day for this. Here was the maximum 2-meter temperatures. These are air temperatures. We can see we've got colder air over Greenland and over parts of the Arctic, and then warmer air coming in from the Pacific and from the Atlantic. Here's 2-meter temperature anomaly. This was Friday the 23rd. We can see that this air is still quite warm. It's still like 20 C higher than normal. And so with that set up over the Arctic, it's going to be hard for that sea ice to refreeze. And then we've got this frigid air coming down through Canada and into North America. And then we've got browns, which are warmer than normal. So here's the flat view of the Earth. We can see a lot of Europe is in the brown, and then we've got a lot of blues right next to the browns, colder than normal. So worldwide we're up 0.5 C higher than normal. The Arctic is up 4.5 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 1.2 C, and the tropics are up 0.4 C. And it's been holding between 4 to 4.5 C higher than normal the last week or so. Here is precipitation and clouds. Thursday was their last update day. So some snow around there. Here's 10-meter wind speed from Friday. We've got this system here on the southeast coast of Greenland that's coming around. It's really powerful, and got some stronger air up here in the Chukchi Sea and up here by Norway. Here's sea level pressure. So we've got a big low sitting off the coast of Greenland here. This is 973 millibars. So that could be very destructive. Then we've got some highs up here in the Arctic. Here's the jet stream as of Friday. Here's what it looks like. It's totally messed up, broken, looping, causing climate chaos. Look at the southern hemisphere. We've got 3 parallel things going on there. Here's sea ice and snow cover. Thursday was the last day. We already saw that. Here's sea surface temperature anomaly. They updated this to yesterday, and we can see that the sea surface temperature around the sea ice is still a lot warmer than normal. It's still in the browns and the light brown color. So 2 to 5 C higher than normal. And here's the Kara Sea and the Barents Sea. It's cooling down. It's not into the bright red and the pink zone anymore. So it is cooling down. So as it cools down, then the ice will refreeze around those coastlines at least. Now last year we never got a refreezing of the Barents Sea. it was ice-free west of Novaya Zemlya. And so I don't expect it to refreeze this year. And the refreeze in the Kara Sea was very light. Here we have high readings here in the North Atlantic, and look here in the Mediterranean and the Black Sea, and then in the Pacific, high readings. Look here in the Tasman Sea between Australia and New Zealand. So worldwide we're at 0.4 C higher than normal. The Northern Hemisphere, North Atlantic, and North Pacific are all at 0.8 C higher than normal. So we still have issues, lots of problems. Now we'll look at some earthquakes. I took these pictures this morning. There were 208 worldwide, so the number's going way down. We had that 7.5 up here in Alaska, in the Aleutian Islands, a few days ago, and then that kept swarming there. That's gone down. Hawaii had been swarming the last few days. That's gone down. The Salton Sea swarmed for a couple of days. That's gone down. And we've got, these are 5s here. These big dots are in the 5s range. And then these are 4s that you see. Here in the lower 48, there were 128 earthquakes. We can see one here just on the west side of the Juan de Fuca plate. Here in Southern California, from LA down to Baja, there were 26. Salton Sea is clear, so that's gone way down. Here in Ridgecrest, Searles Valley area in Southern California were 22. Here in western Nevada, from Tonopah over to Mammoth Lakes, there were 36. Here in Northern California, there were only 3. There was a, this was a 1.9 here, north of Oroville Lake and northeast of Chico. It says in your story, California. Here's one at Chester, a 1.0. This is in Lake Elminor again. We saw one in Lake Elminor yesterday. Here was a 1.1 at Willits. Here is this 3.4 off the coast of Oregon. We can see is just on this red line, just on the other side. This is the Juan de Fuca plate. So that's important there. Here in the Pacific Northwest over to Yellowstone, we're only showing 4, and the largest one is at 2.5 in Stanley, Idaho. And Pacific Northwest is clear. Oregon and Washington is totally clear. Here in Oklahoma, we're seeing two smaller ones. Here in the east side of the U.S., we've got a 2.3 at Maryville, Tennessee, and then 2 at Sparta, North Carolina, with 2.8, and then a microquake of a 0.7 at Sparta. Here off the coast of Mexico and Guatemala, this is on the Cocos plate. We've got 5.1 at Buenos Aires and a 4.4 at San Miguel. Here in South America, we're only showing one, a 4.1 near Arica, Chile. Now this is also where we saw that high sulfur dioxide reading, and Sabancaya is right up here, that volcano that's been going off. Alaska's showing 43, with the largest one being a 4.8 at Sandpoint. This is where the 7.5 hit, so that's still rocking a little bit, but not too bad. 43 is kind of a low normal. Alaska usually shows between 50 and 100 a day. Hawaii's only showing 20 today, so this has gone way down. These are at Pahala, but the majority of them were over here at Kilauea. Here in the South Pacific, we've got 3. We've got a 4.6 on this northeast coast of the North Island of New Zealand near Opotiki, and a 5.2 at Kira Solomon Islands right there, and a 5.9 here at Hihifo, Tonga, so that's getting up there. Here in Indonesia, we're showing a 5.4 and a 4.8. Here's a 4.5 in the Izu Islands of the Japan region, just next to the red line. And here's Switzerland. I don't remember seeing one in Switzerland, but they can have them. 4.5 near Anenda, Switzerland. This came in at 12:35 this afternoon. These are all Pacific time. And 4.4 at Leni, at Italy, so it was just north of Sicily there. Those are all the earthquakes. Now we'll look at USGS to see what else might be interesting. Here's a new one down here, a 4.7 South Shetland Islands. Here's a new one in the South Pacific, 5.2 Pacific Antarctic Ridge. So we're still seeing plate movement, a lot of plate movement here. We've got some more down here in South America. Look at this. They're kind of clustering. So we've got a 5.4 Chile, 4.4 Chile, and 4.4 Chile. So I think that's it. So I'd like to finish up the show now. I'm reading out of the Old Testament, going through all the prophetic books of the Bible, and I'm almost through them. Tonight we're reading Zechariah chapter 13. And these prophets were seeing the end times. They thought it was for their lifetime, but it wasn't. It was for us. They were seeing way, way in the future for the end times. In that day there shall be a fountain opened to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and for uncleanness. And it shall come that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land. And it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that begat him shall say unto him, Thou shalt not live, for thou speakest lies in the name of the Lord. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesieth. And it shall come to pass in that day that the prophets shall be ashamed every one of his vision when he hath prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive, but he shall say, I am no prophet, I am an husbandman. For man taught me to keep cattle from my youth. And one shall say unto him, What are these wounds in thine hands? Then he shall answer, Those are which I was wounded in the house of my friends. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith the Lord of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn mine hand upon the little ones. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, It is my people, and they shall say, The Lord is my God. Zechariah chapter 13. So when you're being tried and when you go through things, the Lord is He's sharpening you, He's refining you. And if you can look at it like that, realize that you can't keep on with old things and old ways. You can't keep on with the sins of this world if you want to be part of God's kingdom. So I'm praying for everyone. I do believe time is short, and the Bible says that everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. And if you haven't done that, I recommend you do that. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and the only way to my Father's kingdom is through me. And so I recommend that you ask for Jesus to come into your heart, and that you repent of your sins and ask to be forgiven. And then you walk the straight and narrow until the end. And don't be distracted by what's going on. This world is a distraction. It's a matrix. It's a distraction to keep us off the straight and narrow. We need to keep our eye on heaven and keep praying for each other and praying for the lost. So I love you all. And until next time, I'm praying for you. God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.